History is filled with tales of war. Some are long and grueling. Some are short and decisive. But few can claim the title of the shortest war in history. That distinction belongs to the Anglo-Zanzibar War of 1896. This conflict, fought between the British Empire and the Sultanate of Zanzibar, lasted a mere 38 minutes. The Anglo-Zanzibar War was a clash of two vastly different worlds. On one side stood the British Empire, a global superpower at the zenith of its power. On the other side stood the Sultanate of Zanzibar, a small island nation grappling with internal strife and the encroaching shadow of colonialism. The year is 1896. Zanzibar, an island off the coast of East Africa, had been a center of trade for centuries. Its location in the Indian Ocean made it a crossroads for merchants plying the spice routes. Cloves, ivory, and slaves flowed through its bustling port. The Sultanate of Zanzibar, ruled by the Arab Busaidi dynasty, controlled a significant portion of the East African coast. However, by the 19th century, the Sultanate found itself increasingly entangled in the affairs of European powers. The British Empire, with its insatiable appetite for resources and markets, had set its sights on East Africa. The Sultanate of Zanzibar, strategically located and economically valuable, became a focal point of British interest. British influence grew through trade agreements and treaties. The Sultanate, though nominally independent, found itself drawn into the orbit of the British Empire. British influence in Zanzibar grew steadily throughout the 19th century. Its location allowed the British to control shipping lanes and counter the influence of other European powers. The British signed treaties with the Sultanate, ostensibly for trade and cooperation. However, these agreements often contained clauses that favored British interests. The British were particularly interested in Zanzibar's clove industry. Cloves, a highly prized spice, were in high demand in Europe. The British sought to control the production and trade of cloves, ensuring a steady supply for their own markets. British traders and plantation owners established themselves on the island, further solidifying British economic dominance. In 1896, Sultan Hamad bin Tuwaini, a ruler seen as sympathetic to British interests, died suddenly. His death triggered a power struggle within the Sultanate. Sultan Khalid bin Barghash, a cousin of the deceased Sultan, seized power in a palace coup. Khalid, however, was not the preferred candidate of the British. They saw him as a threat to their influence in Zanzibar. The British, determined to maintain their grip on Zanzibar, responded swiftly to Khalid's ascension. They issued an ultimatum to the new Sultan. Khalid was ordered to abdicate the throne and leave the palace. The British argued that Khalid's claim to the throne was illegitimate. They insisted that only a sultan approved by them could rule Zanzibar. Yep, you heard it right. The British ultimatum to Sultan Khalid was blunt and uncompromising. He was given a mere 2 hours to comply. The Sultan, however, refused to back down. He rallied his forces, a small and poorly equipped army, and prepared to defend his claim to the throne. The British, meanwhile, had assembled a formidable naval force in Zanzibar's harbor. At precisely 9 a.m. on August 27, 1896, the British ultimatum expired. Sultan Khalid, defiant to the end, refused to surrender. The British, true to their word, opened fire on the Sultan's palace. The bombardment was swift and devastating. Shells rained down on the palace, reducing it to rubble within minutes. The Anglo-Zanzibar War, if it could even be called a war, ended as abruptly as it began. Within 38 minutes, the Sultan's palace was in ruins, his forces routed, and his resistance crushed. Sultan Khalid, narrowly escaping the bombardment, fled to the German consulate, where he was granted asylum. The British, having achieved their objective, declared victory. The aftermath of the conflict saw the installation of a pro-British Sultan, Hamad bin Muhammad. Zanzibar, once a powerful sultanate, was reduced to a British protectorate. The brief war had lasting consequences for Zanzibar. It marked the end of the island's independence and ushered in an era of British colonial rule. The Anglo-Zanzibar War, despite its brevity, holds a unique place in history. It stands as a stark reminder of the brutal realities of colonialism. The conflict highlighted the vast power differential between European empires and the nations they sought to control. The war also underscored the role of technology in warfare. The legacy of the war is still debated today. Some view it as a tragic example of imperial aggression, a testament to the greed and ruthlessness of European colonialism. Others argue that British rule, though imposed by force, brought stability and development to Zanzibar. Regardless of one's perspective, the Anglo-Zanzibar War serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the enduring impact of historical events. If you're a fan of bizarre historical tales and mind-boggling facts, then you'll love our channel. From the shortest war to the most bizarre historical events, we've got it all covered. So hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible tales that will leave you scratching your head and hungry for more.